Hey, yo, whoa. This is another episode of Ski's Opinion with your gracious and humble host. This is the show about everything and nothing at all. What me, Ski, go over the weekly events and trending topics that's going on in our world. Can be some of everything. Let's jump right into the show. First thing first, my first topic, I'm gonna cut into will be I'm gonna cut into this because this happened a little while ago, so I'm a little behind on giving my take on this situation, and that will be the Bobby Smurder getting packed out in Minnesota, right? Bobby had a show in Minnesota, you guys. Came out and he performed. They've been promoting for a while. I was seeing it on social media and everything. He came out. The more I look into the story, it started to give me some clarity on why what happened to him, right? So when I watched the video, like everybody else did, you see Bobby getting killed, you know. But also you also see Bobby throw the first punch. You see Bobby put hands on somebody. Now we know that it was a security guard at the club that he was performing at, which I think is the Gold Room, right? Shout out to the Gold Room. Um, but Bobby sounds like he got on some diva-ish, right? I seen my man Southside Chief, and shout out to Southside Chief, live on Lake Street. You guys tune into that podcast as well. Very dope. Um, but Southside Chief came on to Academics show, and they went over what happened that night. And you kind of get a little bit more clarity to what happened. In the midst of that show, I think Academics even called Bobby, and Bobby doing Bobby, right? But anyway, Chief said, Bobby signed a contract. He made a deal. He made an agreement to, come out and perform for $5 grand. I also put people probably thinking like, oh man, that's kind of lowball for Bobby. Well, why though? What hit songs do Bobby actually got out right now? Oh, my bad. Other than the song that he already had, right? It's Bobby B and Hot. The thing I got to look at. Nah, Bobby. That's my Bobby Smurf. But anyway, he don't have any hits out. He's really not even relevant right now. So them bringing him down here, putting some paper in his pocket, and I think kind of showed, homage to him, because who else is booking Bobby? But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So Bobby comes down. Southside Chief says they paid him $5 grand. They gave him the whole thing up front. And this is the agreement. But when he got hit to the event, or the venue, they said he asked for another $5 grand. So he basically, switched it up. Like, hey, I ain't going out there, this and that, try to get another $5 grand. So I said, Chief said, they went back and forth over, hey, this is, was the agreement we made, that wasn't the agreement. If that was what it was, then you should have said that before you signed this contract. But they still paid him the $5 grand, right? Because at this point, the show got to go on. Like, they'll lose more not giving him the money to get him on it. But Bobby basically stuffed them up, which he knew, that they was going to have to pay. The club had to be packed. And him said, I ain't going on until y'all give me another $5 grand. So basically, that's, he said Bobby gave them his butt to kiss, right? So kind of was like playing, guys, and talking crazy to him and this and that. So it was already a rift before, they even got to the club. But in the video, you can see Bobby, swing on, as we know now, like I said, was the security guard. All H-E double hockey sticks broke loose, right? Um, they get the going. You see guys coming in, giving it to Bobby, giving it to him. He's catching ugly. He's catching ugly haymakers, to the face, body, wherever they're getting them. But they packed him out so much you couldn't even see Bobby no more. And then they had another video clip, that they showed, and they showed Bobby like behind the DJ booth, and he threw on the mic. When he did that, but whatever, he's throwing the microphone, right? And then you see people like trying to get to him, this and that, and they show another clip of the security guard who was, I guess, working for Bobby, like trying to keep people off him and backing away from him, right? And Bobby like get up on like a, I'm gonna say like a bench or something like that, and going over there behind the DJ booth, and he grabbed something. I don't know if it was a speaker or something though, but he had that like he was, wielding it as if he was gonna crack somebody if they ran up. But you see guys like Creeper trying to get over there to him. You see the one guy, he's on top of the DJ booth, walking over what? The security guard kind of trying to like hold off other people from getting to him, not paying attention. The dude jump off the DJ booth, boom, grab Bobby, bam, 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 he going. You see another dude get over there, they going, boom. You can't even see Bobby, but you do see dude movements in their hands, but they are killing him. And they're going, for a little minute, I'm gonna say, they could have done more damage than what they did if these guys are skilled enough to do it, because they had enough time to really put a bunch of Maynots on top of Bobby's head, I don't know if you guys know what Maynots is, but we had a saying when I was growing up. It said a Maynot, right? I put a Maynot on your head. It may go away and it may not, right? That's the Maynot. So he did get one Maynot. But for all of that, I thought he would have got done worse. But the moral to this situation, to this story is, Bobby should have been a little bit more respectful coming to another person's city. You said they wouldn't pay for your security, so you was by yourself. It was you and a couple of females, they said. So you didn't have the proper protection for yourself to even be acting that way. Not saying that, that you should be a B, as people say, like, I ain't gonna be, be like, whatever, I don't care. No, dude, it's called common sense as well, right? You know you outnumbered. You're in a place that you don't even know. I don't know. Bobby probably came here before to do a show or something like that in Minnesota, but you don't know Minnesota, dude. So you don't do that, And just be a little bit more humility, and humbleness as far as your character. Yeah, I think he still needs to work on that. And then you see him doing an interview, he posted a video, he's still trolling. This lasted all but like 3 to 4 days, and nobody cares anymore. I'm speaking on it now, like I said, because I'm kind of late to the party. And, it's just a part of my show today. But nobody's talking about it. It didn't make your records sell nothing. It didn't put attention. Excuse me. Anything new that you have going on. So, to me, it just looked like you got treated. It's ugly. But anyway, like I said, that's neither here nor there. The point that I'm trying to make with this is, be careful, you guys. That could have went a lot worse than what went. But be mindful when you're coming out of town or for whatever. You don't have to be coming to do a show. Be mindful and be respectful of the land and the area that you're in. You may feel like I'm a real, N-word, but it's a lot of real, people out here. It's a lot of real guys out here who doing what they're doing. So I'm going to just say have respect. It had nothing to do with being a coward, being scared. But what do you have to prove to a bunch of people you don't even know, other than you get what happened to him happening to you. So that's all I got on that thing. I just wanted to speak on it because uh, I thought that this was kind of a teachable moment that I can touch on something and maybe help somebody else down the line, especially some of these younger guys who in the music business and they traveling around, to these different states and cities or whatever and performing. Be mindful, be respectful, be humble, bro. Y'all can make this happen. So next thing I want to jump into will be the F the Streets campaign. You got everybody in the uproar over 21 Savage's F the Streets campaign, right? Uh, he did an interview with Big Bank, Perspectives, so everybody making their way to Big Bank, right? Which I think is all right, especially the guys down there in Atlanta. I think that's probably the best person for them to go interview with. So if I think every city, state or whatever, should go to the person who's leading the charge as far as like interviewing and the entertainment space or whatever to go to. I think everybody in Atlanta should be sitting down with Big Banks. I think he do very good interviews. He know a lot of them, and it can't be too much capping with somebody who actually know who you is. And he's a guy who's from, the street. So that changed his life over. You know what I'm saying? That's what Banks said. Yeah, I was a nigga who was effed up and, I was out there doing what I was doing, but I switched my life. I came coming through on a new perspective, right? A different perspective. I like that. Like Big Banks, man. Shout out to you. But that interview, ruffled a lot of feathers. Because in the interview, they went over a lot of things, They went over Young Thug. They went over, the Lucci thing. They went over Dirk and Young Boy, which I didn't even see that one coming, but they even went over that. And it seems like 21 Savage has been somebody who's been trying to, what do you say? I don't want to say be peacemaker, but, squash, I can't say BS beats, because some of these beats people lost their lives in the midst of it. But I'm going to say, the person who probably making them seriality, and is it even worth to continue to keep this going on when you losing people on each side, Thug and Lucci thing, it was really serious, you guys. I think Lucci mom got shot in the midst of that. Sound like Young Thug's baby mother and his sister got murdered, in the midst of that. So some people probably like, well, I would never, squash no beef, nobody. My sister ain't here no more. My kid's mom ain't here no more. Like I can't. I'm not doing that, right? So I don't want to say I understand that, but I to a certain extent I do. I get why a person would be that angry and can't control, their self, in situations like that. I can kind of understand why a person would never want to, squash anything with a person after some things like that happen. And that's on both sides. It's just not Lucci, it's just not Thug. But anyway, it sounds like, he's been telling that he named his new project F the Streets, The streets is dead, he said. Well, my people, I've been saying this to my younger relatives who some are in the streets, some aren't in the streets, and maybe want to act like that they are from the streets because they have people that's from there. So I'm not gonna say naive, but they don't have to live that life, but they synced it up close and personal by, coming to projects, that some of us lived in and, seeing us operate and being out there in the streets at the time. We were out there in the street, right? But I've been saying this has been dead forever, right? I want to say forever, but for a while, I've been explaining that. I haven't spoke that on here, but I'm here to say it. Man, F the streets. In that sense, I say the streets because none of us own none of that stuff, right? The project, own anything. Most people rent. You own this block. People are dying on this block for something that they don't even own. Something that you won't be able to pass down to your kids or, younger relatives or none of that. It's not even yours. You out here dying and fighting over it to make sure that you hold this corner or whatever for whatever time you lived it. Because whenever you move, somebody else is over there. It's another group. I'm from Allgale Garden, block 12, and I moved to block 10. Uh, I haven't stayed in the gardens in years. I went back for years, visiting friends and relatives and all of that once I left there. But if I go through there right now, none of the people that I was out there with are out there now. Especially after the buildings got knocked down in Chicago, the 12 projects. The Gardens is like probably one of it is one of the last projects that's still there. When they started giving out Section 8 vouchers and things of that nature, they moved a lot of people to the Gardens, right? That's from the city, down low, all of it. And these guys, they don't care about our upbringing. They don't care about the rules and regulations of how we lived out there because it's their time now. I ride through there. I see a couple of people that I remember and I know, and I see some of their kids, but I don't really see too many people that we was out there with, or even their kids. Like a lot of them now. And if they are there, like I said, it's just a whole new group of individuals that's out there doing stuff, dying and killing each other and all type of dumb ish over territory and stuff that they don't own. Like I said, everybody doing Section 8, renting, nobody owns nothing out there. But they making it seem like, this is ours, this is mine, we do. But whatever. That's neither here nor there. So as far as the After Streets campaign, I'm for it, And people are like, well, people saying that, but you gotta keep it. Like, dude, come on. The people who saying that is not even from the streets. They probably never even went through anything. You ain't hardly even lost a partner or anything like that. But you quick to say something about what somebody talking about after streets. I don't understand that. Like, don't understand it. And be in the streets and go out there and die for nothing. Explain that to your kids. Explain that to your mom, your cousin, your sisters, your brothers. Explain that to your people. Because the streets mean all that, right? You want to die. Is that what you said? Because to me, that's just idiocracy, man. It doesn't make any sense for you to try to take up or speak up for the streets. What have the streets gave us, y'all? Other than death, trauma, turmoil, do you have good memories and experiences while you was out there in the streets and you were struggling? I would say yes. I think when I was broke and we was out there in the projects and we was together, that was the most I've ever saw community, right? If I'm gonna talk about the streets, I'm gonna talk about that. I remember coming up, we used to play games and stuff like that out there. At a certain time, we had a game that's called Hill Deal. Soon as the street lights came on and the sun started going down and started getting dark, everybody was screaming out, it's Hill Deal time, it's Hill Deal time. We had, projects in our blocks, they like boxes, but the row houses are like, you got the back, then you got the front, and on the front, in between the row houses, everybody, got their houses, some doors next to each other, some doors by themselves, but you got a yard right there. But in the middle of that, because it's in like a triangle, I'm explaining to y'all about the garden. That's my project. I could only tell you about that. It's a field in the middle of that. And we used to say Hill Deal time. This was when I lived in Block 12. This is a Block 12 memory, I could say, and I've moved from there, I think in 88? It is a while ago, right? I moved from there to Block 10. And everybody lined up, we hit the field, we played Hill Deal, right? I'll explain Hill Deal to you guys on another show one day, but It was a good game. It got us all together, and we did this as a community. But that was the most time I saw community because we was broke, right? Tupac said it in a song, I got a love for my brother, but we can never go nowhere unless we share with each other, right? And that was the projects when I was coming up. And people make jokes and they say this and that, like, oh, I used to come over there and you would borrow sugar from this person, or you was borrowing some bread, or this and that. But we did that, right, in community. Because it's something that they was lacking that we might have had, or something that we was lacking that they may have had. That's community, you got. You want to talk about the streets, you want to talk about the projects, speak on like that, right? Community days. And now we had something, we still have it going on right now. Old Timers Picnic, where people who lived out there 30, 40 years ago come back to the garden, and we at the park and everybody barbecuing and set up, and it's a good time to reminisce on the old time, right? Hence the name, the Old Timers Picnic. So you want to speak of things like that, right? I remember we had a public swimming pool. You know, if we didn't have that public swimming pool, and my uncle, Buddy, was the lifeguard up there. He was one of the lifeguards up there, right? He taught probably half the gardens, the people from my generation and before mine, how to swim. So if I'm going to speak about the projects, I'm going to talk about time that we was together, because we probably really didn't have a choice to not be. So in a sense, I don't want to say I want to be broke. I want my people to not have anything, but I'm going to say that when we didn't have nothing, we cared more for each other, right? You was broke. I've never seen that, amongst people who well off, right? They'll say, well, they need to go get a job. Or they need to, are you asking me for something? And you got an abundance of things, right? But you won't share. But in the projects, we may not have anything, or a little bit of anything, but we sharing the little bit of what we have, because I know how it feels to be hungry. I know how it feels to be starving, and I don't want nobody else to feel like that. That's the streets. That's the projects, because I'm giving an equate of the streets being the projects, being the hood, being the neighborhoods that, we grew up in poverty, right? So there's nothing, gonna say nothing. There's not much that's good about poverty. But one of the things that is upside to it is that poverty brings community. Poverty brings togetherness. Poverty brings people sharing and caring for one another, man. Because you're suffering and you see others suffer, you don't want to see nobody suffer. So you will go out your way. You will put things together to make sure that you're helping each other, right? But I live in a neighborhood now where everybody is pretty much well off. It's community here too, but not to that extent. Most people talking about somebody who don't have something. You complain about the kids playing in the yard and look at it, got all their toys over there. You worried about what's going on in their yard like as if it's affecting yours, right? None of that is in your yard. That's their yard. That's their kids, but you hear more of that than you hear community are coming together. But that's all I wanted to say about the, F the Streets campaign. I salute the brother, for being courageous enough to even say it. And having enough heart to go out there and put himself on a limb and even deal with all this criticism that he get. But him saying, the streets is dead is a true statement, you guys. Who would want to be from the hood or from the streets when you could do or be anything else? Who would want to do that? That's all I got to say about that situation. But my next topic I want to touch on will be, I'm going to go Young Buck responds to Fat Joe, right? Fat Joe told a story on George Jada's show when Tony Yayo and Uncle Murder came on. where, and I'm not going to go through the whole story, but it ended up being that Joe supposedly put hands on Buck, right? So it's been a lot of backlash from this, right? Um, Joe is known as a capper, right? And capper, I'm gonna use that loosely because to be saying cap means that you straight out lying. There's no truth to it, right? I'm gonna say that Joe is the greatest storyteller, but he's probably one of the greatest exaggerators of the story, right? So in the story, Joe said he said this, he said that, and whatever, and then come down there, it's a tussle. He catch Buck with a couple, boom, boom, at the time. Well, you got Buck DJ who said he was there, and you got other people who said like, Joe, that story is not true, 100% factual, right? And Yayo was even like taken aback, right? From Joe saying what he was saying, like he didn't know. I never heard that. But you knew he heard something, right? But he did not right say he just let Joe do his thing. But I like that interview because you got a grown man on there, who had a situation at a time, and they was able to ask each other questions about what was going on at that time, and what was what, right? But the DJ explained the story, said majority of what Joe said was true, except for him throwing the water bottle at Young Buck and putting hands on him. He said that Joe didn't say F Young Buck or this and that. He said F 50 Cent. And when he said that, he made Young Buck react, and Buck tried to go down and rectify the situation, right? But when they got there, he said Joe was with like 4 or 5 police, and time that Buck got down there, he was gone. So this altercation, as far as hands getting put on somebody, the hands didn't never get put on nobody, right? So people are criticizing Joe, saying that he's not lying, but he embellishes, right? So he adds on stories. And he kind of even alluded to that himself. But what I'm gonna say about that situation is Young Buck came back with a response. And his response was a song called Cappuccino. Well, he called Joe out on it and said that Joe was lying about putting his hands up. Well, Joe, Buck explained the whole story in the song and said you threw a water bottle, something else, and you thought I wouldn't risk it. I tried, but it didn't happen. So he said he gave him a 2-piece of the biscuit, like I put it together. And he played off that, within the song. So I think Buck came back in a real way, and what he know how to do, and that's rap. Nobody can say that Young Buck can't rap. Has he done questionable things that tarnished and tainted his reputation? And yeah, but as far as making music, he got that. So he come back with a dope response on Wax. And I haven't heard anything else from Joe about the situation, but I will say this, right? Is Joe hurting the Joe and Jada show with the captain? Because he's throwing out stories that's got truth to it, but the embellishment is starting to hurt it. And then also, Joe would tell stories like you hear a lot of people speaking about how he's cutting off the gas. He keep making everything about him. I've been said that. I said that on the show, a while back. Joe always figure out a way to spin the story back about him. And that's what he's doing, but you could tell it's Jada kids make light of it and, throwing out the cat flags and all that type of stuff, right? but you could tell it's even starting to get to him. Total, I think on 112 was on there, and they was, interview that's supposed to be about their story, but Joe got to tell a story about what's going on, and he be like, hold up, and Jada like, man, don't tell me to hold up, let them talk. And you could tell it's urgent because you making the show about you doing, we interviewing people. It's about you. You have to let these people tell the stories. People tuning in because such and such came on the show. We didn't tune in to listen to to Fat Joe's story. If you want to throw a story in there, like I said before, then that's cool. But the whole show, you steady cutting people off to put in what happening with you. Since I was over here, like, dude, we don't care, Joe. And a lot of these stories, he's starting to regurgitate, and they being repeated. We heard it. But how are you interviewing people? Or you got an interview show, but you interviewing yourself? I just got to ask that question, like, do y'all think that Joe is hurting the Joe and Jada show? I heard somebody say that they can't even watch it because of all the cap and the way that Joe do the guests and, even like step over Jada. So I don't know how long this situation is gonna last. Not that they're not doing good numbers and all that, because they are. But I don't know how long that partnership is gonna remain, because I think he's over the top. He's doing too much, and I don't know if I can say I can pinpoint a time that Joe did this, but the way that he's reacting and the way that he's doing stuff and how he's moving, you can tell this is who he is. It's all about Joe, right? And when there's some traction that's going with it and it's working a little bit, he take it too far. So I'm gonna say, Joey, my brother, my Puerto Rican brother, is it Puerto Rican and Cuban? My brother, pull it back, man. Pull it back, bro. Let these people speak their story. Y'all are getting some very dope guests. To the point that if you didn't do too much of that, I think you guys might be number one or in that realm of it. But I think Joe Budden's still edging y'all up, right? But I think he has to stop. Like I said, throw a story in there. But not everything somebody says, you have a story to counter that about you. When it's about them, now I can't even remember what the guest said because you telling your story. So like I said, if you want to do a show like that and it's all about Fat Joe story, why don't you do a show called Stories with Fat Joe? And you can do that. I'm quite sure it will be a hit show. People gonna tune in because some people are tuning in to listen to Joe tell his stories or even just watch the hilarity of how he cut people off and make everything about him. But that's all I want to speak on with that was I just noticed that now. I noticed like a lot of people dogpiling on him. So my next topic I want to touch on, I want to go and get to this now because I think that it's been going on for a while, but it's steady picking up legs, and that is, and congratulations is in order for this. I don't know everything about the specifics of this deal, but I would like to say I would like to congratulate the brother Charlemagne on his iHeart $200 million deal. He said he don't know nothing about the number. He's not sure about the number. The number might be skewed or whatever, but he re-signed with iHeart as the news saying he got a 5-year extension for $200 million you got to bring his Black Effect podcast network and I guess the Breakfast Club as well on board for this deal for 5 more years, right? Shala, I'm gonna say is an example of how you can work your way through the system and get what you're trying to get to. You got a lot of people who are upset about it, and I'm gonna speak on that. But I want to give congratulations and salute to my brother before I get into that. I like the way that he did what he did. He said he was really William sidekick, but to come from that, right, you guys, and we gonna go beyond that because he got a book that tells a story, a little further than that. To go from local radio in Charleston, South Carolina, to become Winnie Williams' sidekick, to become a personality on Philadelphia radio from there, to get fired because of some other stuff with Jay-Z. His career should have been dead there. But to jump from that pivot and go to the Breakfast Club, become one of the most outspoken and known for, speaking truth to power, and even actually telling people to their face what he said about them behind their back, right? I appreciate that. I'm gonna say that that is something that is very admirable, right? I think I said that right. Because a lot of people don't do that. We get on this camera and we do these shows and podcasts and all that, and we speak on all these people, but we'll see them in person and act as if we didn't never see it. I'm here to tell you now, I'm going to follow the lead of Charlemagne. If I ever run into any of these people that I'm speaking on and they just happen to see the show, my show's not huge, but I do know people are watching because I listen and I hear certain things that come out of people's mouth that let me know that you could only come up with that response or what you said if you saw my show. So I know you watch, but beyond that, I will speak the truth to you. What I said here, I would say it anywhere. I don't have a problem with that, right? But what I said here, I would say it to your face. I never have a problem with doing that. I do that in real life, in my everyday, and I will do that with you guys. And I'm doing that on the show. I'm gonna do it because that's who I am, right? I'm gonna speak my mind, giving my opinion. And I don't have a problem with it. But now, let's get into the brass tacks of this deal. This deal has put people in such an uproar, right? About Charlemagne and his deal, and if he sold out, right? If he's deserving of it. Oh, excuse me. What did he do to get it, right? So that brings me to my brother Ebro. I'm gonna speak on his hate first. Ebro is so upset behind being fired, and then a day or two later they announced this $200 million deal, Charlemagne Inc. with iHeart, that he went on his show, and I watched Tim Rosenberg clips anyway. I can't say I watched the whole show, but I watched the clip where it shows him speaking on it and saying that Charlemagne done things that he would never do to get to that point. And that's the reason why he done Ebro like, well, you could probably get it too. Rosenberg, you could probably do that too if you did the dance. So now it had to be something extra. It can't be the man work ethic. It can't be that he's been putting in work for the past 20 years. TV shows, The Breakfast Club, his podcast, The Brilliant Idiot, now his political views. The band is everywhere, on Fox, CBS, everywhere, right? So none of that has nothing to do with the books that he wrote, none of that have to do with it. His talent, period. None of that has nothing to do with why he got this deal. He had to do something in Ebro's eyes that is questionable or immoral, right? He had to do the jig, right? That's what Ebro said. Sound like hate to me, brother. And you got Joe Budden. Basically speaking on his deal as if Charlemagne sold out. He then went over to the other side because of this deal. So this deal made Charlemagne what you gonna say, the side of the industry, right? He should have stayed independent. Well, he was never independent, you got. His Black Effect network was in conjunction with iHeart. He owns 51%, they own 49. Started that way. He works for the Breakfast Club. He wrote his own books. He got a book imprint deal with Simon & Schuster. So he has some independence, but he's always did partnerships, right? So how is he starting out? I think, Joe, you leaked that you make 20 million a year, or however they did the numbers, like you making like 20 million a year just off of Patreon. That don't have nothing to do with your YouTube. That don't have to do with your Instagram, your TikTok, your all these other outlets. And then he got other shows, on the network. He got other things that he do. Like he got the Mark Hill and the Ian show. You got he has a lot of things going on. So he might be making what Charlemagne's going to be making. Yeah, but you have a problem with that. Instead of congratulating the man and then minding your own business and continue to do what you're doing, you put a spotlight on yourself as a hater because you don't like that he got a deal like that. And the only reason I can say that he don't like it is because he tried to get a deal like that with Spotify. And they wouldn't give it to him. They didn't feel like he was worth it, even though they gave Joe Rogan the money. And I think Joe only asked for half of what Charlemagne got. So that's a problem for him. But then he went back and didn't do the deal that they was trying to give him the money for, and then did his own thing independently and still made the money, right? So what are you mad about, brother? What are you mad about? I don't understand it. And I heard somebody ask like, well, what is Nori and them getting out of that? What is such and such getting up out of that? The $200 million, how much they gonna get from? Like, dude, that don't have nothing to do with y'all. And believe me, he inked that deal, right? There's some perks in there. He can renew that contract. It's time for that contract to renew. You don't think that they getting a bag? That's the whole point for the $200 million. Dude, everybody think that he's for to just get the $200 million himself. He has a whole network, you got? A whole entire network. He has employees. He have a lot of stuff going. You think it's all going for him. The deal wasn't give Charlemagne $200 million for 5 years. The deal was Charlemagne struck a deal for his podcast network and the Breakfast Club visual deal through iHeartMedia, which Breakfast Club is already with iHeartMedia. He don't own that, but I think he has something to do with them putting it on YouTube. So now you chat this deal. Well, I have signed this deal with Netflix. The Breakfast Club 4 episodes is going to Netflix. People don't even understand it. So now what, you gonna take it away from YouTube? So what about? No, you're gonna get clips on YouTube. Who was watching the whole entire Breakfast Club show on YouTube visually? It's on there. The audio probably gonna still be on because the audio is on there. It's on there, but who's going on there looking at it, right? Who's even going to Tubi to watch it? Because it's on Tubi, but you still get the clips. People still gonna watch the clips on YouTube. Most people gonna watch the clips anyway because they don't got the time to sit down and watch a whole hour, 2 hour, 3 hour show, right? People busy. This is the microwave age, y'all. Everything gotta be like that, right? So nobody's gonna sit down and do that. I just want to say congratulations to Charlemagne. Continue doing what you're doing. Continue building the way that you're building. I think what you're doing is going to help a lot of us who are out here or even trying to occupy the space, right? Because I'm one that is trying, but I think that you doing that deal and the opportunities now that's being looked at as far as people doing podcasts and things like that is going to open up the door for more opportunities for all of us. So continue to do what you do. Salute, my brother. Have no hate coming from me. Um, and the rest of you guys who are hating, you know, swallow a pill of humility, right? Sometimes less is more. That's all I gotta say about that. You know, like I said, congratulations, Charlemagne. I got one more topic I want to touch on. You know, I think I'm going over a little bit, but this last topic I want to go over is this has been going on for like the past couple of days. Everybody probably have saw or heard about this, and that will be my sister, our sister, Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj has came out and expressed her support, and I'm gonna just say expressed her support for Donald Trump, right, and his policies. She feel, and she has the right to do that, right? I know when we mentioned Nicki Minaj, I used to get it in on people, right, with certain stuff I don't agree with, like, right. I might not agree with all of President Trump's views and policies that he's putting out there because I know it's hurting a lot of people, you know. So because I'm not a avid supporter of him, I'm not gonna bash her for being one or becoming one. Everyone has the right to support and let's say everybody has the right to support and whoever they want, whenever they want, however they want, right? And she has the right to do the same thing. They're in a big uproar over her coming out um, on Turning Point USA with Charlie Kirk's widow, Erica, and her speaking at the event and expressing her feelings and support for Trump and Republican, the MAGA, you know, what you call it. Well, people are in an uproar. They're bashing this woman, right? There's even rumors, I don't know, you know, they're saying that she I think she disconnected her Instagram or something like that. Rumors is that she lost 10 million followers within 24 hours, you know. And to me, I'm gonna say, um, if she did lose that many followers in 24 hours, then like I think everybody should know or know that, you know, this is all fickle. This is the way the game goes, right? One minute they love you, the next minute they hate you. You know, they building you up, but then they tearing you down. It's just how it is, man. And maybe she did lose that many. Maybe that's the reason why, because they're saying a bunch of her supporters are LGBTQ, um, and a lot of Barbs are in uproar and upset over this, right? And that could be true. Two things could be true, right? I would ask for people to have some empathy for the sister, right? The reason why I say that is because everybody keeps trying to say she's on drugs, something mental is going on, you know, because of how she's been lashing out. But everybody has been paying attention to how she's been lashing out on Rock Nation. She's been lashing out, you know, on Cardi and a lot of things, you know, that she's been speaking out on that seems a little off for her, right? I'm gonna say ask for some empathy because it's something that the sister is searching for. And she's on her journey. She has the right to search for what's gonna bring her peace and put her in the space that where she feels comfortable in her own skin or doing what she wants to do, right? That's everybody's right. God given right to, you know, to choose what they want to bring peace and harmony within their life, right? She has the right to do that. I would say show empathy because it seems like she's spiraling because of she doesn't know how to deal with her decline. Nicki has been on a decline for probably the past 5 years, you got. And people saying things and the antics and the things that was going on with her and her husband, um, the antics and things that's going on with just the way that she's speaking out, and then she lashing out on people, But she lashed out on JT, she lashed out at Cardi, no, not JT. But she said, but she lashed out at Cardi about Cardi stuff because you mad about Cardi doing numbers and she's still doing more than me, So she's not dealing with her decline as well as everybody else, right? Another person I say that's not really handling, you don't know, I can't even say he's not handling it well, but he's been on decline since his beef with Kendrick. The best thing I said that he's done is he's shut up. He's not out there speaking on things and giving his opinion about how he feel about this or that, right? When it comes to how things are looking on him, right? He did come out with a song or two, and he said a few things that did a few things that might be, sus, as far as him not dealing with it as well as he want to. But I would say his best attribute is his silence, and I would say that Sister Nicki, do the same. Do not respond to these people saying what they're saying about you. I haven't heard her speak out since this thing broke. So I would say continue to do what you're doing. Regroup and walk this thing through. Don't lash out like you've been doing. Don't go on your long rants on your show and on your Instagram. Well, right now you got to shut down. I would say continue to do that for at least the next month into the next into the next thing that hits the headlines, right? Come in and overshadows your story. Sorry, people. I'm gonna speak on one more thing. Like I said, I was going after the Nicki Minaj thing, but I do got one more thing I want to touch on, and that would be: Does anybody care about the Epstein files, you guys? There's so much other stuff that's been out there, right? And they said that they have been trying to, do things to pull attention away from that. I'm gonna say that whatever's going on right now, there's a seed in that, right? They're releasing pictures, they're releasing photos, but they only releasing pictures and photos of the Democrats' part. They got Trump. He was on Epstein's plane doing this or that. They showed him pictures with some, young women. But it's not really the uproar that you thought that this was going to bring when they released this, right? No one's really speaking on it. I don't think anybody even really care anymore. But that was the biggest thing. I mean, Democrats is not even speaking on it no more like that, you guys, right? You have to bring it out. Where's Jasmine Crockett? Now that it's released, right? And then they said that it's highly redacted. Nobody's even attacking that. They say it's to protect the victims, which I call BS on that, right? Because the victims are saying that they were going to release it. So what are you protecting us from when we was going to do it ourselves, right? Because they felt like they wasn't being heard. They felt like they wasn't being represented in the way that they need to be represented. So the victims were saying that they're going to do it. we're going to protect the victims and his family and this and that. His family released documents towards you. So that's BS. You have no reason to redact that much of this. And there's no way that you can redact whole pages as if that has something to do with, like, y'all just wrote whole pages on victims and said nothing about the acts that was happening, nothing about the incriminating thing that's been going on. You only you're only speaking on, um, you're only speaking on the, you're only speaking on the victim? Like you're not speaking on the crimes that was happening? Because to redact pages and pages, whole pages, redacted pictures, you got it? And didn't explain what was on the picture. How do we know that if you got to redact it, right? Shows me a lot of BS is going on, right? And still people are being protected because for y'all to do that, the only reason why you redacted things is because you're hiding something. Regardless if you want to say it's about the victims or whatever. You're hiding something that's going to hurt somebody else that may be of importance, right? And that's a part of that circle that controls stuff. And then they say they have another 300 and something pages, right? That the DOJ is saying that they need time to redact to protect the victims. Well, that's BS. Just like they called out on, that's against the law that he signed. They supposed to release it all now. But now we're not going to release this part. We're going to release in the increments after we can redact it, right? Well, that's breaking the law. But no Democrats are even speaking on that, right? These politics, right, and politicians are very fickle, you guys. Like I said, I think that the people need to stop listening to either side, man, and start saying what they actually want. I know what you're saying. I don't care about that. This is what I want, right? We the people. We pay the taxes. We work the jobs. We make this country run. So we need to speak on what we want, right? And stop appeasing to a party. I'm a Republican. I'm a Democrat. I'm a progressive. I'm a conservative. What does that have to do with you being a human being? What that have to do with you having your own ideas about stuff, right? Because once you group yourself into a group or a community, ain't no individuality within that. How could you express an independent thought if you talking about I'm a conservative, I'm a Republican, I'm a progressive, I'm a Democrat, right? Then you're going to speak or voice what that group or that party is saying, right? So that's not just your idea. And most of you guys don't believe in it. Most of you guys don't care nothing about the things that they put out there, right? You don't. Because I know that most of us don't even have the mind or the bandwidth to even come up with some of the things that these dudes are even fighting or talking about. Like this tax cut, this big, beautiful bill. Do you think really the average conservative or Republican actually know what's in that bill? Actually know what it's going to do to the people of America? Actually know how that's going to affect us 10 years from now? No. They're agreeing with it because they're a Republican. They're a conservative. I'm just saying. And I think that's all I got to say about this situation, you people. This has been another episode of Anski's Opinion. This is the show about everything, nothing at all. I would like to have you guys like, follow, subscribe. Check me out on YouTube. Check us out on Instagram. Check us out on TikTok. Videos and clips will be put up on all of these platforms. If you don't have one, you can go to the other. I ask you guys for the support. Like, comment, subscribe. See you next time. This has been Ski's Opinion. I'm out.